Hi, I'm Dr. Tracy Pearson, and I'm a legal, political, and cultural analyst on television and radio. I am talking to you in my personal capacity, so I'm not representing any network that I may appear on or any radio station that I may appear on. But I am talking to you as an American, as a woman, as a lifelong voter, as long as I've been, able to vote, and as somebody who is really pissed off right now at what's happening. This is a message for the media. If you consider yourself working in news, I'm talking to you. And it's a message for the politicians in my party, the Democratic Party. So if you happen to be a politician in the Democratic Party, I want you to have a seat. Just go have a seat for a moment. Take all the seats you need, and you'll wait a moment. And you're going to wait a moment for this reason. We've been waiting for you to do something for a long time, and well, you haven't. So have a seat, and you'll wait. As far as the media is concerned, I need to talk to you first because you folks are the most dangerous right now, and you need somebody to talk to you. Now, I am not somebody who works for the media. I don't receive a paycheck. I am not somebody who is of the media. I have been in the media, and nobody pays me to do what I do. I also don't work for the Biden-Harris campaign at all. Actually haven't any actual direct contact from them. So I am talking to you as a voter, as a woman, as somebody who is a consumer of media, and as a woman who is almost half a century old who is sick of your bullshit. I happen to know that you manufacture narratives. The reason why I know this is because when I talk to your producers, who are often young people who are often not paid a lot, who are not experts in anything other than producing news, and I want to get to that producing news in a second, you are creating a narrative. Because when I get contacted, I ask, what's the angle? What's the angle of the story? I like to know what the angle is, because if it's something that I can't get behind because I value my reputation and I value my integrity, I will say no. I have said no. If it's something that I think that I can manipulate because I happen to be good at what I do, I'll say yes. For example, the producers write the questions. Oftentimes I'll rewrite them. But if I can't, if I don't like the question, I'll say, that's a really interesting question, but the more interesting issue is, and that's how I pivot you to the thing that people really need to know. That's how I get you off your angle. So I know that you manufacture narratives, and it's disgusting, because I'm going to pick on MSNBC, because I have been a devoted, loyal follower of MSNBC, and you folks are despicable. First of all, I saw how you repackaged yourself. It was a while ago, but you repackaged yourself. Instead of how you were packaged before, you called yourself now, for example, Andrea Mitchell Reports, to make it sound like you were doing journalism when you weren't. What you were doing was you were an opinion mill and driving a narrative. And you were putting people on that the producers wanted to put on that met that narrative. And you were asking questions that were opinion questions, not fact. Let me give you an example of those two things, since you folks seem to be confused. My shirt is black is a fact. The air is warm is an opinion, because maybe I think it's warm, but maybe someone else doesn't. Okay? That's an opinion. So, facts versus opinions. You guys have got out of the fact business and are in the opinion business. And that bothers me. So you manufacture the narrative, and then you drive the narrative. Now, during the Trump administration, everybody was afraid, and everybody was afraid for good reason. We also were very afraid because of the narrative that was being driven. And we had developed these quasi-relationships with you, and you had become like our security blanket, because who else could we trust? Who else could we trust? We trusted you. And we trusted people like Rachel Maddow, Chris Hayes, Lawrence O'Donnell, Brian Williams. We trusted you. Brian Williams is no longer there. Rachel really isn't there, but she's there at the important times, and even she's part of this. And then new people got moved around, and those relationships were built because we already had those quasi-relationships with the rest of you. And we trusted what you said, and we listened to you, and we internalized what you told us to think and believe. And we watched news get created, produced, manufactured, and pushed on us. And we believed you. Now, back in 2016, you created a narrative, but her emails. The way the human brain works is that it works on pattern detection and probability determination, and I'm going to give you the short course on that. Your brain's working 24/7 to perceive information, even while you're asleep. As it is perceiving information, it's dumping it into buckets. Safe, unsafe, and I don't know. I don't know often becomes unsafe. At the same time, simultaneously, in a very fast process, it is doing probability determination. So pattern detection and probability determination. And in probability determination, what that means is that the brain is trying to tell the body what to do. So it is assessing the information, deciding what category it goes into and what it should do with it. And there's some implicit bias that gets worked into this, but we're not going to talk about this in this episode. But you guys said, but her emails in 2016. Now, in 2024, President Biden has a bad debate. He's not feeling well. He has a cold. He had a lot of travel. He had some family crises that weren't his fault, but he wanted to love and support his family. He had a world crisis he was dealing with. He was running the country. He was doing all sorts of things. And he had a pathological liar that you normalized standing next to him. And he had rules that he had to follow. And those rules were supposed to be enforced. Additionally, he has a disability that you've reported on. And the combination of all of those things, he had a bad debate. He had a bad debate. Biden had a bad debate. Obama had a bad debate. Bush had a bad debate. Reagan had a bad debate. Everybody's had a bad debate, okay? I have some theories on why the incumbent president always has bad debate, but another episode. Anyway, so he had a bad debate, and you immediately jumped on the narrative of he's too old, his performance, and cognitive. And all I hear is, but her emails. And the reason I hear that is because the Trump presidency was fabulous for you guys. It was so good for you. Some of you went from reporters to having anchor jobs. Some of you took what I like to call golden little parachutes, quasi-golden little parachutes, where you get to only come to work sometimes and not every night like you used to. Lots of money. A lot of you got book deals. A lot of you got book deals. Book deals don't happen overnight, and the American public may not realize that. I happen to be writing a book right now, so I know. It takes a long time to publish a book, and the timing around all that stuff lines up. And I, in fact, can prove it. But you made Trump presidency is good for you, and chaos is good for you, and conflict is good for you. And you think that we are going to believe you and that you can rely on our support. You can't. You shouldn't, because our brains, everyone's brains works this way. Those of us who are critical thinkers went, but her emails, poor performance. And that's the narrative that you're driving. Knock the shit off. I voted. My vote's gonna count. My fellow voters' votes are gonna count. And you're gonna stop what you're doing. If you don't stop what you're doing, which is putting your thumb on the scale of the election, we're gonna come after your advertisers. We're already shutting you off. We're already canceling subscriptions to the New York Times and to the Washington Post and the Nation and to the Atlantic and to anything else that we happen to subscribe to. We're already doing it. People have stopped watching you. You have broken our trust. As somebody who has 2 doctorates, one in law, and who was a practicing lawyer for a long time, I will quote a judge that I respected. It takes 1 second to destroy a person's trust and a lifetime to get it back if you can. We're not coming back to you, not until you change your behavior. Is that clear? We're sick and tired of being told what to do. We got a lot of white men telling us that what we can do with our bodies. Fuck you if you think you're going to tell us who we're going to vote for or who the best candidate is, because you've got a lot of personal vested interest in this, because a Trump presidency is good for, all right? And you'll come to realize how bad your decisions have been in the last week as you see your ratings fall. And if we start going after your advertisers like we did during the Me Too movement, then you're really gonna know. So start getting back to being journalists. I happen to be a member of the Society of Professional Journalists, and I can tell you that you're violating your ethics and your responsibilities. You should go read that ethics book. If you don't have it, you should go buy it, okay? All right, let me move on to the politicians who hopefully have been sitting there patiently waiting and listening intently, possibly taking notes. In 1968, we had a contested convention, and that was a bad thing. That was a terrible thing for the party. So the McGovern Commission did their work and came out with some basic tenets and rules that we were going to follow. And those rules included things like we were going to make it an emphasis on primary votes, so that the voter was the centerpiece of how the candidate who would be on the general ballot would be chosen. We have primaries. Any one of you idiots could have tried to primary the president. You didn't. One guy did. He tried to. He failed. For good reason. You didn't. You like President Biden. You supported President Biden, and I dare say you probably voted for President Biden, at least most of you. So, get behind your party leader and get behind your candidate, because guess what? The voters did. And I'm hearing some unreliable reporting from a network, CNN, who is unreliable. And it's unreliable because of lack of attribution and all sorts of things. But I'm hearing some mumblings about letters, 2 different letters being passed around, and not this time. No, we're not doing this, kids. Okay, because here's the thing. I vote in every election, and some of you really would like to be elected this time around, and I don't give a rat's fucking ass whether you are, if what you're going to do is destroy my democratic vote. That's what you're doing. You're going to steal an election from within because you think you know better. Sorry, I sent you to work in Washington. The other voters sent you to work in Washington. You work for us. Do you understand me? You work for us. When Representative Raskin said that there were going to be conversations, I heard him on Chris Hayes say that, and it really, really upset me. That's why I wrote you a letter, so I hope you've read it. If you haven't, I hope someone on your staff has, and if they have, I hope they'll read it to you. Because here's the thing. I checked my voicemail. I didn't get an invite. I checked to see if I got a Zoom invite in my email, and I didn't get invited to any of that conversation. Not at all. And I checked with some of my fellow voters, and they didn't either. So I don't know what fucking conversation you think you're going to have, Representative Raskin, but it's not going to be to replace President Biden from the ticket. It's not going to be, because I voted. I voted. And my vote counts. On January 6th, while you guys were hiding under chairs and praying that somebody would come rescue you because the piece of shit that the mass media had validated as being normalized was trying to steal an election. He was trying to do that using fake electors and all sorts of things, pressuring the vice president to avoid his constitutional duty, things like that. This doesn't feel much different to me, except that the only violence being done is to our emotions. Our votes matter. President Biden has the delegates, and you're going to make him your nominee, because otherwise you are no better than Trump. You're just going to disregard my fucking vote, aren't you? You're going to disregard my fucking vote because you think you can. No, you're not. President Biden had a bad debate. He admits he had a bad debate. Man, that guy works his ass off. And you backed him, probably even voted for him. Most of you, as I said. He's a good man. He's an honest man. And he works really hard. I can get into the whole thing about his schedule. If you actually have a brain, you understand that if you read his physical that he had in February of 2024, he has increased his physical therapy and exercise routine 4 to 5 days per week. That's acceptable, that's normal. And he comes to the office at 10 a.m. most days, many days, not all days, because I can see his schedule too. You can too. You can go online and you can actually download it to your phone. And it'll alert you every time the president is moving from one thing to another. So he comes to the office, okay, when there's a normal schedule at 10 a.m. I'm thinking that he probably gets up, he has physical therapy, he does exercise, he has breakfast, and he comes to the office like we all do. And he works, and he works all day long. And he works at night sometimes. Do you remember President Obama? He also worked after he left the Oval Office. He'd take a little bag with him, and he'd take stuff up to the residence, and he'd sit there and he would read, because the president's got to do a lot of reading. There are briefing books, there's all sorts of things, okay? He's not up there playing Nintendo. And so the president is working, and we know he's working because he's accomplishing things. In fact, here's the thing. He's the only of the two of you that are accomplishing things. He's using his executive authority to protect women. He's using his executive authority to try to accomplish things that you can't get done in Congress, in the Senate, okay? Your subpoenas in the Senate are apparently your power is broken. I don't know. Do you need a Harry Potter wand to fix it? Your letters pile up at the Supreme Court, you know, and aren't being very effective. The House, Democrats voted for to keep a guy who none of us knew, who thought God spoke to him and was telling him he was going to be the next Moses. That owes me an explanation. That owes all of the voters an explanation. Because, see, if I said that shit, I'd be locked up and evaluated for a long time. That's crazy shit. But you saved his ass. Yes, you did. Meanwhile, the other guy, who was a dipshit too, he's complaining about the fact that the president offers cookies when you come to visit. The president offers me a cookie, I'm going to be damn happy that the president offers me a cookie. I am going to feel honored the president offers me a cookie. In fact, I'd love the White House to send me that cookie recipe because I want to do cookies for everybody. Okay, because you got to be a fucking asshole to not like a cookie. All right? So you guys aren't doing shit, but the president is and the vice president is. And so who do you think I have faith in? You? Or the president and the vice president, even if he had a bad debate? That's an easy answer. It's the president and the vice president. So here's the deal. Stop being brats. Get behind your party leader. Get behind your candidate, your president. The president. He's not trying to be the president. He is the president. I sort of feel like I am summoning the spirit of a fictional character, Toby Ziegler. He is the president. He is the president, and he will continue to be the president unless you violate my right to vote. Stop being brats, or you lose our support too. We are sick of this shit. It's been a week of this shit between the media and you. Enough. Enough. And finally, for both of you, no human is perfect. And I have no expectations that President Biden will be perfect tonight or today when he does his interview with George Stephanopoulos, because he's human. He has a disability. I respect that. He has a disability. Sometimes he stutters. Sometimes he stutters a lot when he's nervous or if he's tired. That's okay. Sometimes he misspeaks. I misspeak. You all misspeak all the time. Please, trust me, don't make me get the receipts. I have no expectation this man will be perfect, and I don't want him to be perfect. I don't want a God. I want a human. And he's human. And I don't think that many of you are. I think you're assholes. And I think you're bullies. And it's gonna stop. And you're gonna get behind your party leader, and you're president, and you're going to do your goddamn jobs.